guys, thanks for tuning in. So today we're going to be checking out the RC leading RC111 quadcopter. Now this is like a micro quadcopter, similar design to say the new Hubsan X4, and looks like this one may have an optional height hold or altitude hold mode, so I'm not sure if this is the version that has it. We'll be checking that out. But anyway, what we're going to be doing today is taking this out of the box, doing a full inspection of it, setup, and then we're going to be taking it out to the park, doing some park flight, seeing how it performs in maybe a little bit of wind, and then bringing it back into the house and doing a house flight in no wind and seeing how it performs in there, getting some battery timings and just seeing how this thing performs. And don't forget, if you are interested in this guy, I'll have the links down below in the description of the video, so you can click on that and check out the pricing and specs more in depth on this guy. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the unbox. This is the box here. On the top it's saying RC11. On the back it looks like they have a white version as well. And that's about it, a little bit of gold box with just this white sleeve here. Let's go ahead and take this sleeve off. Then we're greeted with this very bright gold box here. And we're gonna just take this all apart. Looks like I gotta flip this over. And there we are. Wow. Okay, so it looks like I got a black and fluorescent hot pink, it looks like, version here. There's our controller. Looks like this is the FPV version, so I've got an FPV screen here. Anyway, let's take this plastic out, get everything out of the box, and look at it a little bit more in depth. Cool. FPV monitor, controller, little bag of goodies here, FPV mount kit, and looks like that's it, aside from an instruction manual on the bottom. Okay, so here's everything that comes in the box. Let's go ahead and just unpackage some of these things here. So this looks like the FPV screen mount up bracket, and here's the FPV screen here. It's got this little screen protector here. Gonna go ahead and peel that off real quick. Okay, so the screen looks to be like maybe a kind of a matte finish, so that'll kind of cut down on reflection. That's cool. And let's see how this screen works. So this thing kind of just has like a ratchet system here, like a ratchet type of hinge. And we can tighten that here. Once we find our position, we can go ahead and lock that down with this screw. Oh, that's interesting. So with this one, it looks like they incorporated the battery tray cover right into the screen holder, the FPV screen holder. So you just slide that in, it snaps in, and that's nice and tight. I'm not seeing a screw pre-installed. Of course, you could put a screw in there now that we're utilizing this battery tray as cover as dual purpose. But pretty simple. Looks like we've got not really a spring loaded, but it looks like we do have this little thumb screw here, and we can adjust this. And there is a little bit of a ratchety grip to it. As I slide it up and down, you can see that, or you can hear that that kind of ratchety noise. And I can see right in here to the back there, I actually can see some teeth here, which are kind of locking the height in when you screw that screw down. So then all you do is you take your screen, and we're just putting our screen in like so. Kind of lock that over the top and pull it down tight, and then go ahead and just screw in this thumb screw. And there we go. So there's our little FPV screen. It looks like the screen has got its own power off and on switch here. Just power that on real quick. And also it has a little charger here. So there's our screen. And definitely gonna need to charge this screen before I take it out, because it looked like the battery was dead. Let's go ahead and open up this bag of goodies, and then we'll get to the RC11 more in detail. So this looks like the charger for the screen. It's got that input there. So you just plug that in right there, and then plug that into your cell phone or computer kind of charger, USB, to charge it up. We've got a screwdriver here. It looks like they did give us a single screw, and it looks like that screw is going to be for battery tray, to take that weight of the screen if you wanted to put that in. We've got 4 extra propellers that just push on. They're just push on type. Since this is like a microcraft, usually microcrafts just have this push on type where you just push it right on top of the motor shaft. So that's great that they give us 4 extra props. Always commendable. And this is interesting. This looks like possibly the craft charger. Wow. So it looks like this may be not really a defect, but this cover of the USB kind of came off, and that's kind of what a USB looks raw there. But anyway, I could probably just squeeze that back on a little bit, clamp it on. But that's the USB side. You'd plug into a cell phone charger or a computer to charge. And what's interesting is this guy on the bottom. It's saying CHA there, and it's got 3 little slots. So these 3 slots here, these 3 little pins are going right into this slot, and once you get it in the right way, it slides in there nice and tight. I guess you could just stick this into your wall charger and it's supposed to hang there off the wall. So interesting choice. Not sure if that was the best choice, but it is a way to charge it. Anyway, let's take a little bit closer inspection. That's everything in the box there. There's the camera in the front. Looks like a fairly large lensed camera, and it's ever so slightly pointed down, just a couple degrees pointed down. Here's our LED lights, on-off switch on the bottom. Looks like we have a little cooling area there on the bottom. This is a very nice design. We've got some foam feet here on the bottom, which are partially coming out. What I'm going to do right now is just kind of push them back into their so they're level. Anyway, pulling this thing around, we got light in the front, light in the back, and I'm hoping those are going to be visible from the sides. We'll check that in a second. We have propeller guards that are, looks like they might be integrated. Oh, okay, so you can take those off. So you just pull them, they pop off, and then you can go ahead and put your motors, push your motor, your props back on there, so you can fly without your propeller guard. Save some weight, longer flight time, and also less wind resistance. But definitely leave them on if you're a beginner. You don't want to be crashing and without these on. I'm going to be taking these off. Alright, so that was easy. 4 of those just pulled right off. And check out this top cover here. I think these are actually interchangeable. Anyway, there's our battery. So it's a slot type battery here. It's a 520 milliamp is what's listed here. 3.7 volt. Little compact proprietary little battery case here. And it actually looks like it's got that same kind of connector on the battery. So let me just check here. Maybe we could charge the battery without it even being in the craft. Okay, so there's our option there. So you can see this thing. It'll only go in one way. It won't go in that way. So it only goes in one way, and we can plug it into the craft or straight into the battery. So that's better. So at least the whole craft isn't hanging off of the wall, or a little bit easier to stick into a battery. I mean a computer, because you know how computer USBs are usually on the side down low. So that will now charge in a computer easily. All right, so good option. You can charge straight from the craft port or from the battery port, and this battery just slides in like this and locks in nice and tight. So a really neat modular design here, as far as how everything kind of snaps in nice and tight. It looks like this is a micro SD card for recording the video that you'd slide in. They don't provide one in the package, so you need to put one in there. Okay, so I got this FPV screen and the battery for the RC111 on the chargers, and let's just go ahead and see what some of these functions are on the controller in the meantime. Starting from the top, there's 2 triggers up here on the top, And what these are going to do is the left trigger is photo video. The right trigger is saying 3D eversion. So that would be your flips. So I'm imagining on the left one for photo and video, maybe a quick press for photo and a hold for video. We'll be testing that out when we do our flight test, coming up here pretty quick. And I am noticing that the thumbsticks are not clicking in, so they're just standard thumbsticks. And we can notice here that they're both spring-loaded. So both of them are bringing us back to center. So that would indicate to me that this is an altitude hold version, or when you do let off the throttle, this is your up and down for altitude throttle. It will go ahead and go into an altitude hold mode when you let off that stick. Then of course the right stick is going to be your roll and your pitch. Getting to these buttons here, of course, your power on and off, and then on the left of that we have our headless mode. To the right of it we have our auto return. It's kind of a return to home. And if you notice here, it looks almost exactly like an Xbox 360 controller, almost to the T, so that's interesting. But anyway, moving on to these buttons up here. These are going to be the trimming buttons for this stick here, and that's about all those buttons do there. And then over here, these are also clickable on this little cross pad here. And this up turns off and on your lights, down, speed gear. So that would indicate to me that that's our rate, so we can go faster or slower in our pitch and roll. And then this over here is just your yaw fine-tuning left and right, is what it's saying here. And it will take 4 AA batteries, and as we saw before, this is like an integrated battery door here. And there's our 4 AAAs, sorry, 4 AAA batteries there. Anyway, it's just telling us stuff about the FPV and stuff. It looks like they have a version like a Wi-Fi where you can connect it to your phone and do Wi-Fi from your phone. This is the 5.8 gigahertz version, which comes with its own screen. So let me go ahead and pop a battery in here and just see how the lights look and how the FPV looks, so you can just test it on the bench before you go out and fly. So let's go ahead and just power on really quick. So monitor power up here. There we go. I don't have any batteries in the controller right now, but just want to see how the FPV is going to do. Powering on the craft with that little button there. And let's see if it locks in. There's our FPV. Great. So it just auto connects to the FPV. And wow, excellent latency. Really not seeing barely anything at all. So that is really good latency. You can see that the battery icon is bleeping at me on the screen, so I need to do this quickly before I ruin any batteries. But it looks like it's got a really nice FPV camera, and you know, I am noticing slightly wide angle too. It's not you know, just a straight on camera. It's got a little bit of a wide angle, which is always easier for FPV, so that's great. So there's the lights from the side view, very visible. Front, very visible, blue in the front, red in the back. Even from the bottom and the top, they're visible because they have these little light covers that stick out. So great job with the lighting on this. I think this is going to be really fun to fly. So let's go ahead and take this out to the park, get everything charged up fully, take it out, do some park flight, and then come back to the house, do some house flight, and see how it performs. Okay, so pressing up and down to bind it. You heard that beep and then the high-pitched beep. And that means it should be bound and ready to go. So let's go ahead and there's a photo, and I'm going to hold in the left trigger to start the video. There we go. So I got the video icon blinking up here. You guys can see that. But really nice, clear, awesome looking picture. And that's really nice. I'm going to turn off the lights by pressing this top button there to save some power. And let's go ahead and launch. Okay, so arming the motors, both sticks to the bottom outwards. I see the prop spinning there, so let's go ahead and take a little bit of an issue there. It looks like the left rear propeller flew off at launch. So I'm going to need to glue that on, it looks like. Okay, so let's try that again with our propeller glued on. Let's go ahead and arm and launch. Okay, so 3 rates on the bottom cross there. And this is the fastest rate of flight. Pretty quick. Woo! Nice.
What I am noticing right off the bat is that there's a little bit of a level out pitch issue with this one, where you'll be pushing full pitch forward, and after a while it starts to kind of level out. I've had some other problems with quads like that, so I don't know what's going on. See how it's getting a little more level as you hold the pitch, and it's going really slow. So this one seems to suffer from that. I don't know if it's the wind or what, but I'm full pitch forward. I had some nanos with that problem. It's really hard to fly in any kind of wind. See how it's just kind of leveling out and going really slow. Anyway, it seems like the yaw is the same in all 3 rates of flight. Let's go ahead and go into, let's do a return to home real quick before the battery dies. I'm going to go over here, get up a little altitude, and press this button to the right of the power button. It's hard to really tell because the wind is coming from that direction. But man, I'm full pitch forward. What's going on? It's just staying, the wind's blowing it back. Frustrating. Rate 3, what's going on, rate 3? Come on. Alright, so pretty major con with this one. It's got that bug where it levels out when you hold the pitch for too long. So it's even tough to fly, you know? It just keeps drifting back like that. So that's too bad, man. I had high hopes for this thing. And it seems to get worse doing that as the battery gets lower. I think the battery may be already kind of spent. Let's try a little bit more. If we can't get it to work in the park, we'll try again in the house. We've still got some good power. Looks like the lights are blinking on the back, so it's probably running out of power. Yeah. So we're out of power, holding the stick up, and it does shut off the motors. But you know, I had high hopes for this thing, and unfortunately it looks like it's got possibly a couple of bugs. Definitely visible. But as far as the park flight test on this one, the FPV seems good. I mean, they got that right. They got that really good. You see how fast that reaction time on the FPV is. That's like race latency reaction time. And it's got a wide angle camera. Really good wide angle camera here. And the FPV seemed good out to, like, 100 feet. There goes. It just cut out the FPV because it's getting too low on power. So I wasn't able to test the headless in the park. Range seemed about 100 feet in the park before I had a couple dropouts, maybe 150. The camera seems really good. Just a quick little pros and cons in the park here before we get back to the house. You can turn off and on the lights to save power. The speed was pretty good. The altitude hold did work fairly well. Now this is windy, so it might be a little bit influenced. But you know, that self-leveling pitch bug problem, man. I've had a few other quads that do that, and it's just so hard to fly in a park like this, even with a little breeze, because you're pushing the pitch forward. It seems like it's going great, and then after a while it goes, and you barely have any pitch, and the wind just keeps blowing it back further and further and further. And it suffered from that today. Disappointed. It makes it hard to fly outside. Anyway, guys, let's get this thing back in the house and do our in-house flight test, and then give it a final pros and cons. So let's go ahead and power this thing on. I'm going to power on the quad first, and then the transmitter, and then the FPV screen. It doesn't really matter when you power on the FPV screen, but I think for these little micro quads, powering on the quad first is best. So we can see that we have the FPV screen. It boots right up. First, we're going to press up and then down to bind it. In the park, with a little bit of wind, you notice that I was having a little bit of pitch trouble. When I did hold the pitch forward, it would eventually kind of level out. So this will be a good test in the house if that kind of happens. I don't have much room to fly around in to test that. So the park test was a really good test to see for prolonged, pushing it forward for prolonged use, if that would happen. So we'll see how it performs in here. So I want to do a recal And the way you do that gyro recal is you make sure you're on a level surface. This is a level table. And you want to bring both sticks to the bottom left. You're going to see this flashing here. And basically what that does is it should recenter the gyro or the accelerometer so you don't have any kind of weird crooked flight. So both sticks to the bottom left and right. Get the propellers going. And we're going to launch here. Now this one does have altitude hold, so just going to see how well it holds its altitude here. It's drifting a little bit back, so I'm going to trim it forward just a little bit with these trim buttons here on the right. A little bit more to the left. A little bit more forward. Whoa! Okay, so let's disarm that right away. Alright, so we had a propeller fly off. It actually broke in half. Wow. So you can see that propeller just totally broke in half. So looks like maybe the quality on this one is not the best. So let's reassess that here. So this propeller just cracked in two while it was flying. Let's see, I'm not sure if this is the one I had to lightly glue on. It may have been, but that thing just basically ripped apart in the air. I haven't even really crashed this thing yet, and I'm having all kinds of problems with it. So that's too bad. Let me go ahead and put a spare propeller on it that I got in the package, and we'll try this again. Okay, so lucky thing, they give you an extra set of props in the box. So I'm going to go ahead and push this one on, this new prop on the motor here. And it looks like this one is much tighter, so that's good. And the other one, maybe this was just a defective propeller because it was really loose to begin with. I put some dab of glue on it and now it just shattered apart. So anyway, that's something to note. So let's go ahead and retry that flight with the new propeller. Okay, so there's a snapshot, and let's go ahead and start recording by holding in the left trigger. And we can notice that the lights on top are blinking, indicating that we are recording the to the card on the craft. So let's go ahead and launch. There we go. Okay, so let's try that again. So this is its altitude hold. You notice when we leave off the stick here, it will go into its altitude hold. It's kind of going up and down. It's really windy outside, but it's not windy inside here. So I'm not sure if that would affect the barometer. It might. But you can see how it's performing in altitude hold. Also, there's the FPV, nice and bright screen here. You see how it's dropping on its own there. But as far as holding its position, it's pretty good in no wind here. And let's see what the yaw is like. So there's the full yaw. So all the way in all three rates, I'm just hitting this bottom cross here, changing the rates, and they're all the same for yaw. Here's rate 1, pitch and roll. 2 beeps when you press that down, and there's rate 2, pitch and roll, a little bit faster, but the same yaw rate. And rate 3, you're going to hear 3 beeps, and we can see how much faster it'll fly, how much more of a pitch it has. Try not to hit the throttle at all. And we can see it holding its altitude while I'm doing all this. And you can see how pretty quick and fast that FPV is. You can see the screen, it's pretty much no latency at all, so that's great. Anyway, go back into rate 1. Let's try to do a flip. So right trigger. Okay, so you have to hold. Whoa. All right, let's disarm that. Wow. It tried to do 2 flips for some reason. I'm not sure if it's because I pushed it twice, but let's try that again. So let's put the propellers back on. Hopefully they're not bent. And you guys are getting a really good crash test in this video, and you're seeing all the problems that may arise. Gyro recal and relaunch. Let's try a flip again. So holding it one time, it looks like you got to hold the right trigger while you press to the side. Okay, so that was one. Maybe I held it a little bit too long and it kept flipping. I'm not sure. Okay, so you got to let go immediately or it might do multiple flips. So it looks like it's flipping good, actually. That may have just been some kind of weird anomaly. Anyway, let's see. So I launched in this direction. I'm going to turn it like this. Let's see how headless is. Pressing in this button to the left of the power. And, whoa. Yeah, okay. It looks like the bearing was completely skewed, so that's not going to work too good. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt, and let's go ahead and turn it off. Put the propeller that flew off back on, and try that again on a reboot. Launch. And I'm going to go into headless right away. Okay, there's headless. So it looks like it's working good if I launch and put it into headless. I'm turning sideways. And yeah, so it is working. I'm not sure why it was off the first time, but it seems like it's working fine now. It may have been because I was flying around a bunch. So I'd put this thing into headless right away if you're going to use headless on this one. Headless off, pressing in the left stick again. And now let's try the return to home. If I'm sideways and I hit the button to the right of the power. Yeah, so it looks like the return to home is working. Let's try that again. Maybe a little skew to the right. If I press this again, you see how it's going in that direction. And then once you push the right stick, it cancels that out. So there's our low-level blinking lights. And I'll have the time of the flight up on the screen. I'll have that flash up on the screen. And let's just see what happens if we just kind of let it run out of power in the house here. And before I do that, let me just make sure I stop. Oh, there it goes. I want to stop that video recording. So I am holding up on the throttle. It's going ahead and turning off the motors. So it has a low-level fail-safe where it will shut everything off. And okay, so it's also shutting off. Wow, so it shut itself off completely, it looked like, once it gets too low, so that's good. I'm hoping that video saved. So anyway, let's run through a quick little pros and cons here while we're at it. Okay, so first of all, really like the FPV screen and how fast this FPV was. Even though we're recording on a micro SD card, it was a really fast FPV and very clear. In the park, it did go, I think it was 100 to 150 feet of range. So the range isn't the best, but the FPV was nice and clear up to that range. Let's see what else. Had a little bit of trouble with the pitch in the park. In any kind of wind, if you're holding it for a while going forward, it seemed like, you could see in the park, it seemed like it would start to level out, and it was really hard to fight that wind. So that may be a little glitch maybe in the accelerometer or flight controller. I'm not too sure. Seems like the headless will work good if you put on the headless right when you launch and you're flying it. If you do any kind of flying around, then try the headless. It has a hard time, and I would attribute that same with the return to home. It does work good when you first launch, but it might get disoriented after a while. The altitude hold was okay. It did drop up and down a little bit, even in the house in no wind. It kind of had a weird few feet of up and down instability, but you can't expect too much from these little quads with altitude hold. The barometer quality isn't the best, and you can kind of see that in the fluctuation. Cool thing about this one is the lights were awesome. You could see it from the side really good, from the back and the front very good, even the top and the bottom, since they do have these kind of protruding lights here. You can see the video and you can make up your own decision on how good that video and the pictures were I had up on the screen. And I think there's a few of those shortcomings and those cons that they can work on to make it an even better quad, just like any quad. One more thing that I kind of did like though was that you have this dual option for charging. They had that kind of neat proprietary USB stick that just plugged right into this charge port on the craft, or you could also just use it straight from the battery and you can plug straight into the wall. You don't have to deal with any cables or wires. So that was kind of cool. The only con on this would be that you can't just buy any old battery. You're gonna have to buy the battery in the bracket that they sell. Anyway guys, I hope you liked the review on this guy, and don't forget I will have this thing down in the description of where you can get this thing, and you can check out the pricing and the specs on this. And anyway, I do a lot of reviews like this, so check out the channel. I think you'll like it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.